It was in the year of sorrow, amidst the passing of beloved figures like Abu Talib and Khadija radiallahu anha, that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam found himself alone with no support and facing barriers at every turn. Amidst this darkness, when despair threatened to consume him, Allah the Most Merciful, the Most Wise, bestowed upon the Prophet a chapter from the Quran. Within its verses lay a tale hailed as the epitome of storytelling, a narrative so profound that it not only comforted the Prophet's aching heart, but it continues to soothe the hearts of millions around the world today. This is the story of Yusuf. Prophet Yaqub had taken 4 wives, each bringing with them their own unique joys and challenges into his life. From these marriages, he was blessed with a total of 12 sons. Among them, Yusuf held a special place in his father's heart. Yusuf was unlike his older brothers in many ways. He possessed a gentle spirit and a keen intellect, which endeared him to his father. Along Yusuf, there was Binyamin, his only full brother. Despite being the youngest among the brothers, Yusuf would always look up towards them with a heart full of love and respect. The other brothers, older and more numerous, couldn't help but notice their father's preference for Yusuf. As each day passed, they grew resentful, feeling overshadowed by their younger sibling. Yet, Yaqub's love for all his children never declined. He cherished each of them dearly in his own way, but it was the sight of Yusuf spending time with him, eager to learn and listen, that warmed his heart the most. This special bond grew as Yaqub observed Yusuf's genuine interest in his teachings and the depths of his understanding. As the days passed, the seeds of jealousy planted in the hearts of Yaqub's older sons began to sprout and grow. Instead of seeking understanding and empathy, they allowed bitterness to take root, poisoning their thoughts and feelings towards Yusuf. "We are the eldest sons," they murmured amongst themselves, their voices mixed with resentment. "We are the ones who should be favored by our father. Why does he pamper Yusuf so much?" The whispers of Shaitan found fertile ground in their troubled hearts, fueling their envy and sowing discord within the family. Slowly but surely, their bond with Yusuf began to fray, replaced by suspicion and animosity. Despite the growing bitterness from his older brothers, Yusuf remained steadfast in his love and respect for them. Even at the tender age of 10, he understood the importance of familial bonds and the significance of treating others with kindness and honor. Yusuf's love and affection towards his brothers did not go unnoticed. Their father Yaqub observed Yusuf's gentle nature and compassionate demeanor. A sense of pride and admiration swelled within him. Yaqub watched as Yusuf interacted with his brothers, offering them empathy even in the face of their hostility. He marveled at Yusuf's ability to rise above the petty disputes and resentments that plagued their family, recognizing in him the potential to unite and lead his brothers with grace and wisdom. One day, Yusuf awoke, having had an unusual dream. His heart swelled with excitement, and he was eager to share it with his father. He hurried to Yaqub's side, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Oh, my father," Yusuf exclaimed, "I've seen a remarkable dream. In it, there were 11 stars prostrating before me, along with the sun and the moon." Yaqub listened intently to his son's words, a mixture of awe and concern flickering in his eyes. He had long sensed the growing resentment in his other sons towards Yusuf, and now, with the revelation of this dream, he feared that their jealousy would only intensify. "My dear Yusuf," Yaqub said, his voice soft but firm, "this dream is a gift from Allah, but it is also a delicate matter. Do not share it with your brothers. They may not understand its significance." Yaqub's words weighed heavily on Yusuf's heart. He nodded solemnly, understanding its importance. However, despite his father's warning, Yusuf's excitement got the better of him, and he couldn't resist sharing his dream with his brothers. His innocent eagerness to share the dream ignited a firestorm of jealousy amongst his siblings. The brothers, already simmering with envy over their father's favoritism towards Yusuf, found themselves even more irritated by the revelation of the dream. As Yusuf's joyful recounting came to an end and he left the gathering in his happy state, the brothers exchanged looks of annoyance and desperation. "We cannot allow Yusuf to rise above us," one brother muttered, his voice laced with bitterness. "His dreams are nothing but fantasies." Another brother nodded in agreement, his features twisted with envy. "We must rid ourselves of him once and for all. Only then can we reclaim our rightful place in our father's eyes." Fueled by their jealousy and resentment, the brothers began to devise a plan to rid themselves of Yusuf. They plotted in secret, their hearts consumed by hatred and evil. One of them suggested the unthinkable: killing Yusuf. The mere thought of murdering their own brother sent a shiver down their spines, revealing the depths of their bitterness. However, the eldest brother, perhaps less hardened by envy, or perhaps guided by a flicker of consciousness, proposed an alternative. The brothers listened to the elder brother's suggestion. The idea of disposing Yusuf in a less direct manner seemed to offer a sense of justification. "Yes," one of the brothers agreed, his voice cold and calculated. "Throwing him into the well will rid us of him without staining our hands with his blood. Surely he will be picked up by travelers and taken far away from our land." With their plan decided, the brothers waited for an opportunity to put into motion their evil scheme. A few days later, the brothers approached Yaqub and asked for Yusuf to join them in play. Yaqub's protective instincts surged within him. He had always been wary of letting Yusuf venture far from his side, especially in the company of his older brothers, whose jealousy simmered beneath the surface. "I'm sorry, my sons," Yaqub replied, his voice mixed with concern, "but I fear for Yusuf's safety. He is young and innocent, and I cannot bear the thought of him coming to any harm." The brothers exchanged frustrated glances, their impatience mounting with each passing moment. They had hoped that their father's love for Yusuf would have blinded him from their hidden intentions, but it seemed that their father's protective instincts were sharper than they had anticipated. "But father," one of the brothers protested, his voice mixed with frustration, "we are older and stronger. We will look after Yusuf and ensure that no harm comes to him." Yaqub's heart ached at his son's pleading words, but he remained steadfast in his resolve to protect Yusuf at all costs. He was deeply concerned knowing his son's tendencies all too well. Careless and sometimes irresponsible in their actions, he couldn't trust them to look after Yusuf properly. Yaqub expressed his fears to his sons, cautioning them that while they played carelessly, a wolf might easily devour Yusuf. His words reflected both his concern for Yusuf's safety and his understanding of his son's shortcomings, making him reluctant to grant their request. Despite Yaqub's initial reluctance, the persistent pleas of his older sons eventually wore down his defenses, and he hesitantly agreed to let Yusuf accompany them. With smiling faces and a sense of sinister thoughts weighing upon them, the brothers led Yusuf away from their home to an isolated area far from the protective eyes of their father. At first, Yusuf's heart swelled with excitement as he joined his brothers in their play. But as they reached the secluded spot, The warm smiles on their faces twisted into frowns of malice and deceit. Confusion clouded Yusuf's mind, and he felt a sense of unease. As the brothers surrounded him, their hands moving with cruel intent, Yusuf's initial confusion gave way to a growing sense of alarm. With each push and shove, he realized that this was no innocent game. "Please stop," Yusuf cried out, his voice trembling with fear and desperation. "What are you doing? Why are you treating me this way?" But his pleas fell on deaf ears as his brothers continued their relentless assault. Their hearts had hardened by jealousy and resentment. With each push, Yusuf's fear grew, his mind reeling with the realization that he was utterly alone, betrayed by those who were supposed to protect him. As the assault continued, Yusuf's senses dulled with pain and fear. One of the brothers removed his shirt from him, and then, with a final brutal shove, he was sent tumbling into the depths of the well, his screams echoing off the stone walls as he plummeted into darkness. Yusuf realized the truth of his situation. He was alone, trapped in the cold, unforgiving depths of the well, abandoned by those he had once called his brothers. As he huddled in the darkness, his mind clouded with pain and confusion, Yusuf's thoughts turned to his father, his heart heavy with grief and longing. But even as he clung to the memories, Yusuf knew that he was alone in his suffering, condemned to a fate unknown. The brothers for a split second were stunned as the act happened so quickly. Suddenly, one of the brothers spoke up, his eyes gleaming with a newfound determination. "We must make it look convincing," he declared, his voice cutting through the tense silence. "We will kill a small goat and cover Yusuf's shirt with the blood. That way, our father will have no choice but to believe us that it will fate him." In a moment of panic, desperation, and envy, one of Yusuf's brothers impulsively killed a small goat and used its blood to stain Yusuf's shirt. The brothers were gripped by fear and desperation, their minds clouded by the dread of facing their father's wrath and disappointment. Without time to devise a strategic plan, they instinctively resorted to mimicking the scenario they believed their father feared the most: an attack by a wild animal. When the brothers returned home without Yusuf, Yaqub noticed their troubled expressions and sensed something wrong. "Where is Yusuf?" he asked with a concerned voice. The brothers exchanged uneasy glances and they began to cry profusely, struggling to maintain their composure under their father's piercing gaze. "We were having a race and Yusuf was left behind, and when we had finished and went back, we found that a wolf had ate him." Yaqub's heart clenched with fear at the mention of his beloved son's name. "What do you mean?" he demanded, his voice rising with panic. "Why didn't you help him?" The brothers hung their heads in shame. "It was too late. He was already gone. Do you still doubt what we are saying? For you will never believe us." The brothers then raised up Yusuf's shirt and showed Yaqub the blood-drenched cloth. Tears flooded in Yaqub's eyes as he struggled to come to terms with the news of his son's apparent demise. His heart heavy with grief, he turned to his sons, his voice trembling with anguish. "You have brought me great sorrow. Your evil desires have led you astray," he said, his words choked with emotion. As Yaqub examined the shirt stained with what appeared to be Yusuf's blood, his heart sank with suspicion. The shirt seemed too perfectly placed. There was no tear on it to be the result of a wild animal attack. Despite the mounting evidence against his son's story, Yaqub found himself at a crossroads. To confront his sons would risk shattering their fragile bonds that held their fractured family together, but to remain silent would mean turning a blind eye to the possibility of a sinister truth lurking beneath the surface. In the end, Yaqub chose neither path, opting instead to retreat into the solace of his own thoughts and prayers. With a heavy heart, he turned to Allah seeking guidance and strength in the face of his overwhelming grief. "I will seek beautiful patience and assistance from Allah," Yaqub murmured softly, his voice a whispered prayer carried on the breeze. In that moment, he made a silent vow to endure whatever trials lay ahead with grace and fortitude, drawing strength from his unwavering faith in Allah's wisdom and mercy. Meanwhile, Yusuf, who was all alone and shivering in the darkness of the well, had lost all sense of time, his mind consumed by fear and uncertainty, when suddenly the stillness was shattered by the sound of voices above. A caravan had stopped near the well, its travelers seeking water for their long journey ahead. As a man was sent down to draw water from the depths below, Yusuf saw his chance for the escape. With a desperate surge of strength, he clung to the bucket as it was lowered into the well, his heart pounding with anticipation. As the bucket was hoisted back up, Yusuf held on for dear life, his body trembling with exertion. And then, with a gasp of relief, he emerged from the depths, his eyes blinking in the harsh torchlight as he found himself face to face with his would-be savior. The man who had drawn water from the well looked upon Yusuf with a mixture of surprise and delight. Here was a young boy, alone and vulnerable, a perfect opportunity for profit in the bustling markets of Egypt. Without a moment's hesitation, the man seized upon his chance for gain, his eyes gleaming with greed. "We will take this boy with us," he declared to his companions, his voice filled with excitement. "He will fetch a handsome price as a slave in the markets of Egypt." And so, Yusuf was hidden amongst the caravan's merchandise, his fate sealed as they continued their journey towards Egypt. Alone and afraid, he clung to the hope that somehow, some way, Allah would facilitate a path for him to return into the arms of his beloved father once more. As the caravan arrived at the bustling market in Egypt, the merchants wasted no time in presenting Yusuf for sale. With a flourish, they brought him forward, their voices ringing out as they advertised his youth and strength to the eager crowd. But as the people gathered around to catch a glimpse of the young boy, they were struck by his breathtaking beauty. His features were like those of a finely crafted statue, his eyes shining with intelligence and grace. In that moment, it seemed as though time itself stood still as the crowd marveled at the sight before them. Sensing an opportunity to make a quick profit, the caravan's owners urged the crowd to bid for Yusuf, eager to sell him before anyone could recognize him and raise objections. They knew not whether there was already a search party out looking for him, and they feared the consequences of being caught with the stolen boy. As the bidding war commenced, the tension in the air grew palpable, each bidder competing for the chance to claim Yusuf as their own. But just as it seemed that the highest bidder would emerge victorious, a hush fell over the crowd as a figure approached. It was the Aziz of Egypt, the minister himself, a man of wealth and power who commanded the respect of all who knew him. As he laid his eyes upon Yusuf, he too was struck by the boy's beauty and poise. His heart stirred by a sudden inexplainable longing. Stepping forward, the Aziz silenced the murmurs of the crowd with a commanding gesture. "I will pay 3 times the price of the highest bidder in gold." The stunned crowd fell silent at the Aziz's words, their eyes wide with astonishment, and as the scales tipped in Yusuf's favor, the merchants exchanged satisfied glances, knowing that they had made a profitable sale. And so, as Yusuf was led away from the market, his heart heavy with the weight of his newfound slavery, he clung to the knowledge that Allah's plan was greater than any human understanding. For though he may have been valued higher in the eyes of men, in the eyes of Allah, Yusuf was sold at a low price. The minister, having purchased Yusuf, saw potential beyond mere servitude. As he arrived home, he shared his thoughts with his wife, expressing a belief that the boy could bring them great benefit. Not only did he suggest providing Yusuf with comfortable accommodations, but he also hinted at the possibility of adopting him as a son. Growing up in the house of the Aziz of Egypt, Yusuf found himself in a world of luxury and privilege. The grandeur of the mansion, the opulence of its furnishings, and the power and prestige of its inhabitants all served as a stark contrast to the humble beginnings from which Yusuf had come. Yusuf was raised with care and affection, his every need attended to with meticulous attention. From the finest clothes to the most sumptuous meals, Yusuf lived a life of unparalleled comfort and abundance. But more than material wealth, the minister recognized Yusuf's intelligence and potential. He saw in him not just a handsome young man, but a bright and talented individual with a promising future ahead. Determined to provide Yusuf with the tools he would need to succeed, the minister invested heavily in his education and upbringing, ensuring that he received the best instruction money could buy. Under the guidance of esteemed tutors and scholars, Yusuf immersed himself in a rigorous course of study. Alongside his academic pursuits, Yusuf also learned valuable lessons in personal sacrifice and resilience, gaining wisdom and understanding through observation and experience. As he matured into young adulthood, Yusuf's presence in the house of the Aziz became indispensable. His keen intellect and astute judgment earned him the respect and admiration of all those that knew him. Yusuf found solace in the knowledge that he was exactly where he was meant to be, for in the house of the Aziz, amidst the wealth and power of Egypt, Yusuf was being prepared for a destiny far greater than he could have ever imagined. As Yusuf matured into manhood, his intellect and wisdom flourished, complemented by his striking physical appearance. But beyond his earthly attributes, Yusuf was bestowed with a divine gift. He was chosen by Allah to become a prophet, endowed with certain knowledge and insight that set him apart from others. As Yusuf's reputation as a man of knowledge and good judgment spread throughout the land of Egypt, he also caught the attention of the influential wife of the Aziz. She was a woman of beauty and wealth, accustomed to getting what she desired, and upon laying eyes on Yusuf as he became a man, she found herself irresistibly drawn to him. In the absence of her husband, the wife of the Aziz would often act flirtatiously around Yusuf, her eyes lingering on him with a hunger that belied her outward composure. She would seek opportunities to be alone with him, using her position of power and influence to exert control over him. But Yusuf, guided by his faith and moral integrity, remained steadfast in his devotion to Allah. Despite the temptation that surrounded him, he refused to succumb to the advances of the Aziz's wife, knowing that such actions would betray his principles and dishonor his creator. As Yusuf continued to resist the advances of the wife of the Aziz, her desire for him only grew stronger. Unable to control her lust any longer, she devised a plan to seduce him, luring him into her chambers and closing the doors behind him. Alone together, she made her intentions clear. Her eyes filled with desire as she approached Yusuf with an enticing smile. But Yusuf, steadfast in his faith, recoiled from her advances, seeking refuge in Allah and reminding her of the trust and kindness her husband had shown him. "Truly, your husband is my master," his voice firm and resolute, "and he has treated me with kindness and generosity. I could never betray him, for the wrongdoers will never prosper." Despite Yusuf's attempts to reason with her, the wife of the Aziz was blinded by her desires. Unable to see beyond her own lustful wishes, she sought to force herself upon him, heedless of the consequences. As Yusuf's heart raced with panic, he knew that mere words were not enough to escape the clutches of the wife of the Aziz. With determination fueling his every step, he made a split-second decision to break free from her grasp and flee from the room. Running with all his might, Yusuf's feet pounded against the floor as he raced towards the door, his hands reaching out to grasp the latch. But before he could make his escape, the wife of the Aziz, consumed with lust, grabbed him from behind, her grip like iron as she tried to pull him back into the room. In the struggle that ensued, Yusuf's shirt was torn, the fabric ripping as he fought to break free from her grasp. And in that pivotal moment, as Yusuf stood on the face of calamity, the door swung open, revealing the figure of the Aziz standing before them. As the Aziz gazed upon the scene before him, his heart heavy with sorrow and anger, he took in the sight of his distraught wife and the panting, flushed figure of Yusuf. Confusion clouded his mind as he struggled to comprehend the situation unfolding before him. His wife's tear-streaked face, twisted with a mixture of fear and vindictiveness, spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. "What should be the punishment?" she implored, her words dripping with accusation. "For one who sought to harm your wife, should he not be cast into prison or punished severely for his transgressions?" Yusuf, his own breath uneven and his heart heavy with injustice, spoke up in his own defense. "It was she who sought to seduce me," he declared, his voice steady despite the turmoil raging within him. "I am innocent of any wrongdoing, and I seek refuge in Allah from her false accusations." The Aziz's mind reeled as he grappled with the conflicting accounts before him. On one hand, there was his beloved wife, whom he had trusted implicitly. On the other, there was Yusuf, whose righteousness and integrity had never once faltered in his service. Accompanying the Aziz was a young man who spoke up, saying, "I know how to discover the truth. If the shirt is torn from the front, it implies that your wife is telling the truth, as it suggests she was trying to distance herself from Yusuf. However, if the tear is from the back, it means that Yusuf was attempting to flee and she grabbed hold of it from behind, causing it to tear." As the young man accompanying the Aziz made his declaration, the room fell into a stunned silence. All eyes turned to the torn shirt of Yusuf, and upon closer inspection, it became apparent that the fabric was indeed torn from behind. The truth was clear for all to see, exposing the deception of the Aziz's wife. With a heavy heart and a deep sigh, the Aziz turned to his wife, his expression a mix of disappointment and sorrow. "This is your doing," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of betrayal. "Surely you have orchestrated a mighty plot, and now you must seek repentance for your sins." His wife, her face flushed with shame and regret, could only bow her head in acknowledgement of her wrongdoing. And as the Aziz addressed Yusuf, his voice softened with compassion and understanding. "Let us put this matter behind us," the Aziz urged, his tone gentle yet firm. "Yusuf, I implore you to turn away from this incident and continue to serve me with the same devotion and integrity you have always shown." Yusuf, his heart heavy, nodded in a silent agreement. He understood the importance of preserving the Aziz's reputation and position in society, and he was willing to forgive in the name of peace and harmony. "I do not wish for this news to leak and create a scandal," the Aziz continued. "It would not only tarnish our household's reputation, but also affect my standing in the land." As time passed, whispers of the incident began to circulate amongst the high-class, wealthy women of Egypt. In their exclusive gatherings, behind closed doors adorned with opulent decor, they would exchange hushed conversations, their voices mingled with a mixture of curiosity and scorn. They spoke of the Aziz's wife's audacity to seduce a mere slave, shaking their heads in disbelief at the scandalous behavior that had transpired within the walls of the prestigious household. How could she stoop so low, they wondered, to entertain such desires with a servant? The gossip spread like wildfire amongst the elite circles of Egyptian women, each retelling of the tale embellished with newfound details and speculation. Some expressed sympathy for the Aziz, lamenting the betrayal he had suffered at the hands of his own wife. Others shook their heads in disapproval, condemning the woman's actions as shameful and disgraceful. Upon hearing the whispers of gossip amongst her peers, the wife of the Aziz felt a surge of anger and resolve. Determined to confront the hypocrisy and judgment of those who dared to condemn her, she devised a cunning plan to teach them a lesson they would not soon forget. Organizing a lavish banquet, she extended invitations to the very women who had dared to speak ill of her. As they gathered around the elaborate table, adorned with an array of ripe fruits and gleaming knives, the wife of the Aziz waited with bated breath for the moment of reckoning. At her signal, Yusuf entered the banquet hall, his presence commanding attention and awe. As the women laid eyes upon him, they were struck dumb with admiration, for never before had they beheld such beauty and grace. Mesmerized by Yusuf's ethereal charm, they reached for the knives before them, but instead of slicing into the succulent fruits laid out before them, they unwittingly cut into their own flesh, their eyes fixed upon Yusuf in adoration. "He is no mere mortal," they murmured in awe. "He is an angel sent from the heavens above." Had these women possessed even a shred of modesty, they would have lowered their gaze and refrained from indulging in such recklessness behavior. But in their blinded admiration for Yusuf, they were consumed by their own desires, oblivious to the pain of their self-inflicted wounds. As Yusuf departed from the banquet hall, leaving behind a trail of bewildered and humbled women, the wife of the Aziz smiled triumphantly, her plan of redemption and retribution fulfilled. For in that moment, she had shown the world the foolishness of their judgment and the true power of Yusuf's divine beauty and grace. As the wife of the Aziz watched the women's reactions with amusement, she couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Their reckless actions had exposed their hypocrisy, and now they stood humbled before her. With a sly smile, she addressed the gathered women, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Look at you," she chuckled, gesturing to the fruit-laden table. "You couldn't even cut the fruits properly." The women exchanged uneasy glances, the realization of their stupidity sinking in. But before they could fully comprehend the situation, the wife of the Aziz revealed Yusuf's identity, shattering their illusions and revealing the truth. "This is Yusuf," she declared, her tone firm and resolute. "The very man you accused me of seducing, and yet he refused my advances, proving his righteousness." Despite her assertions of innocence, the wife of the Aziz issued a chilling ultimatum. "If Yusuf does not submit to my demands and come to me willingly," she declared, her voice cold and menacing, "he will be punished and thrown into prison." The women, torn between their admiration for Yusuf's beauty and their fear of his impending punishment, began to plead with him to comply with the Aziz's wife's demands. "She is your master," they urged. "You must obey her and spare yourself from the horrors of prison." As Yusuf found himself surrounded by the relentless attempts to seduce him, he felt a deep sense of despair and anguish. Each moment seemed to bring new temptations, testing the limits of his resolve and faith. In the midst of this turmoil, Yusuf turned to his Lord in prayer, seeking solace and guidance in his time of need. "O my Lord," he implored, his voice filled with earnest sincerity, "prison is more to my liking than the torment I endure at every turn. Protect me, O Allah, from the plots and schemes of those who seek to lead me astray." With each whispered prayer, Yusuf found strength and conviction, his faith unwavering in the face of adversity, for he knew that only through the mercy and guidance of Allah could he withstand the temptations that surrounded him and emerge from this trial unscathed. As the news of Yusuf's plight began to spread, the Aziz made a difficult decision to protect his honor and put an end to the scandal that threatened to tarnish his reputation. Despite Yusuf's innocence, he was unjustly sent to prison, a victim of circumstances beyond his control. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Yusuf remained in his prison cell, his heart heavy with the weight of his wrongful imprisonment. The outside world seemed to have forgotten about him. It seemed that he had been erased from the pages of history. But just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a glimmer of light appeared on the horizon. One fateful day, a dream emerged from the depths of a troubled mind, a dream that would serve as the key in unlocking Yusuf's freedom and propelling him to unimaginable heights. In the confines of Yusuf's prison cell, time seemed to stretch endlessly before him. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, yet his faith remained unshaken, his spirit unwavering amidst the darkness. During the monotony of prison life, 2 new inmates arrived into the prison cell, their faces etched with worry and uncertainty. One was the king's cook, his face marked by the weight of his past deeds, while the other was the king's personal wine pourer, his eyes telling a sense of submission to his fate. The 2 men had been accused of conspiring to kill the king. Their alleged plot cast a shadow of suspicion over their fate. As their case was meticulously investigated, they shared the confines of the prison with Yusuf, each man burdened with their own thoughts and fears. The prison walls echoed with whispered conversations and muffled confessions. The 2 men, once perhaps filled with bravado, now bore the weight of an impending judgment. In the dim light of the cell, Yusuf stood out amongst them, a young man of striking presence and composure. His demeanor was calm, almost serene, a stark contrast to the restless agitation of his fellow inmates. Despite his circumstances, Yusuf carried himself with dignity that intrigued and puzzled his cellmates. The 2 accused men, wrestling with the uncertainty of their future, began to share their stories with Yusuf, hoping perhaps for a shred of insight or comfort from their enigmatic companion. Despite the circumstances that had brought them together, a subtle bond began to form amongst the 3 men. Each man sought solace in companionship, finding unity in their shared predicament. One night, both men were visited by vivid dreams that stirred the depths of their souls. The cook saw a vision of birds swooping down to peck at bread on top of his head, while the wine pourer dreamed of himself pressing grapes into a golden cup. Intrigued by the significance of their dreams, the 2 men turned to Yusuf, seeking guidance and interpretation. Yusuf listened intently to their accounts, his heart filled with compassion for their troubles. Yusuf turned to the 2 men, his voice resonating with conviction and clarity. Before your next meal arrives, the interpretation of your dreams will be revealed to you. Seizing this moment before their sustenance arrived, Yusuf took the opportunity to share profound insights with his fellow inmates. I have renounced the faith of those who deny Allah and the hereafter, he declared firmly. Instead, I adhere to the religion of my forefathers, Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. Turning his gaze towards them, Yusuf posed a thought-provoking question. O companions of the prison, do you consider many gods to superior, or is Allah the one God, the ultimate deity? With unwavering resolve he continued, these so-called gods are mere fabrications passed down by your ancestors, but the true authority belongs solely to Allah in all aspects of our lives. The men listened intently, captivated by Yusuf's words that resonated with profound wisdom and faith. In the confined space of their prison, the truth Yusuf spoke reverberated, stirring contemplation and introspection within their hearts. After Yusuf had concluded his enlightening discourse on monotheism, he turned to fulfill his promise of interpreting the dreams that had troubled the hearts of the 2 men. Addressing them with a calm and assured demeanor, Yusuf began, regarding your dreams, as for the wine pourer, you will soon be reinstated to your former role of serving wine to the king. This is the fulfillment of your dream of pressing grapes. Turning to the cook, Yusuf continued, as for you, your fate is different. You will be crucified, and birds will eat from your head. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, the stark contrast of destinies sending a shiver down the spines of the 2 men. The cook's face turned pale, the gravity of Yusuf's interpretation sinking in. Yet amidst the despair, the wine pourer felt a glimmer of hope. his dream serving as a forerunner of imminent freedom and restoration. As the prison gates creaked open to usher in their meal, Yusuf's prophecy unfolded before their eyes. The cook and the wine pourer received their interpretations, validating Yusuf's divine knowledge and reinforcing the belief in the one true God. True to Yusuf's divinely guided interpretation, events transpired swiftly. The wine pourer was indeed reinstated to his former position, whilst the cook met a grim fate, his life ending in the manner Yusuf had foreseen. Before the wine pourer departed from the prison cell, he approached Yusuf with a heart full of gratitude and reverence. Overwhelmed by the accuracy of Yusuf's interpretations and the kindness he had shown, the wine pourer embraced Yusuf in a gesture of profound appreciation. In that intimate moment, Yusuf made a heartfelt request. "Remember my situation when you are in the presence of the king," Yusuf implored, his voice touched with hope. "Speak of my unjust imprisonment and plead my case before him so that he may investigate the matter and uncover the truth." The wine pourer nodded solemnly, his heart moved by Yusuf's plight and the injustice he had endured. With a renewed sense of purpose, he vowed to convey Yusuf's innocence to the king, determined to seek justice for the righteous man languishing in the depths of confinement. As the wine pourer departed the prison, carrying with him Yusuf's earnest plea, hope flickered in Yusuf's heart. He entrusted his fate to Allah's wisdom, confident that the wheels of destiny were turning to accordance with a higher purpose. Unbeknownst to Yusuf, Shaitan clouded the wine pourer's memory with the allure of newfound freedom and comfort upon his release. Overwhelmed by the prospect of returning to his former life, the man succumbed to forgetfulness, failing to fulfill his promise to advocate for Yusuf's innocence before the king. Days turned into weeks, and Yusuf's hope of imminent relief gradually waned. He awaited the promised intercession in vain, unaware of the betrayal orchestrated by Shaitan's deceitful whispers. It was then that Yusuf realized that he had made a mistake by asking the wine pourer to intercede for him. In the depths of his realization and remorse, Yusuf's heart was burdened with a profound sense of humility and repentance. As he knelt in prayer, tears streamed down his face, a testament to his unwavering faith and recognition of his own human frailty. "O Allah, forgive me for seeking aid from anyone other than you," Yusuf pleaded, his voice filled with sincerity and shame. "You alone are the ultimate helper and the one to whom all matter belongs." Yusuf embraced patience as his steadfast companion, knowing full well that Allah is indeed the best of planners. By now, Yusuf had endured an additional 7 long years of imprisonment, during which time his tale gradually faded from the collective memory of the people. Within the confines of the prison, his presence became a distant echo of a forgotten story, overshadowed by the passage of time and the relentless march of worldly affairs. Yusuf's name, once spoken in awe and reverence, now lingered as a whisper on the lips of those who had once known of his suffering. As the world continued in its oblivious pace, the stage was being set for a climactic turn of fate, a turn that would soon unveil the profound purpose behind Yusuf's enduring patience and unyielding faith. In the midst of darkness, Allah's divine intervention was poised to rewrite Yusuf's story, propelling him towards a destiny of undeniable glory and honor. One day, the king, who was known far and wide for his wisdom and benevolence, was troubled by a recurring dream that stirred deep within his heart. Night after night, the haunting vision weighed heavily on his mind, leaving him restless and unsettled. In the midst of his troubled sleep, the king beheld a vision of profound symbolism. 7 fat cows devoured by 7 exceedingly skinny cows, followed by the sight of 7 healthy ears of wheat consumed by 7 withered and barren ears. Disturbed by the recurring nature of his dream and the weight of their meaning, the king sought counsel from his advisors and counselors. Gathered before the throne, the king's counselors puzzled over the dreams, grappling with their symbolism. Yet despite their collective efforts, none could offer a satisfactory interpretation. Frustrated by their inability to decipher the message veiled within his visions, the king's advisors dismissed the dream as mere whims of the subconscious, something to be disregarded and forgotten. The wine pourer, who had been present during the council's discussion of the king's dream, suddenly recalled Yusuf's exceptional gift of dream interpretation. As if awakened from a deep slumber, with newfound clarity, he approached the king. "I know someone who can interpret these dreams," the wine pourer declared to the perplexed king and his counselors. "Give me permission to leave and seek the interpretation." Recognizing the urgency and importance of uncovering the dream's meaning, the king granted the wine pourer permission to visit Yusuf in prison. With hope rekindled in his heart, the wine pourer embarked on the journey to seek Yusuf, carrying with him the weight of the king's visions. Upon seeing Yusuf in prison, the wine pourer greeted him with familiarity and urgency. Yusuf did not dwell on the past 7 years or question the wine pourer's sudden reappearance. With determination and insight, Yusuf delved into the interpretation of the dream without hesitation. The 7 fat cows and 7 healthy ears of wheat symbolize 7 years of abundant harvest and prosperity, Yusuf explained. However, they will be followed by 7 years of famine and hardship, represented by the 7 skinny cows and withered ears. As the wine pourer absorbed Yusuf's interpretation, Yusuf continued offering his recommendations to the king. Tell the king to take proactive measures during the years of abundance, to store surplus grain and prepare for the impending years of scarcity. This will ensure the survival and well-being of the kingdom during the times of hardship. Yusuf also foretold that after the years of scarcity, a year of abundant rain will come, bringing relief and renewal to the land. Grateful and awestruck by Yusuf's profound insights, the wine pourer hastened back to the king, carrying Yusuf's message of wisdom and foresight. When the king heard Yusuf's interpretation of the dreams and the accompanying recommendations, he was utterly amazed. Not only had Yusuf provided a clear understanding of the dreams, but he had also offered practical guidance that would shape the kingdom's destiny for the next 14 years. The king, deeply impressed by the profound interpretation and recommendations provided by Yusuf, summoned the wine pourer. "Bring me the man who interpreted this dream," the king commanded. The wine pourer, filled with anticipation and gratitude, hastened to fetch Yusuf from the depths of the prison. With each step towards Yusuf's cell, he marveled at the miraculous turn of events, how Allah had swiftly elevated the once forgotten man to the center stage of the kingdom's affairs. The wine pourer, filled with joy and gratitude for Yusuf's divine guidance, delivered the message to Yusuf that the king had summoned him and he was now free to leave the confines of the prison. However, to everyone's surprise, Yusuf declined the opportunity to leave. "I will not leave this prison until I have clarity," Yusuf declared to the wine pourer. "Return to the king and inquire about the fate of the women who cut their hands. What happened to them?" Puzzled by Yusuf's unexpected response, the wine pourer dutifully relayed Yusuf's question to the king. Yusuf, possessing the wisdom granted by divine insight, understood that the truth of his innocence lay in the physical evidence, the scar that would have remained on the hands of the women who had falsely accused him. Yusuf sought to bring this crucial piece of evidence to light, confirming that justice should prevail and his innocence should unequivocally be established. The king, deeply moved by this revelation, was determined to uncover the truth and ensure justice would indeed prevail. With resolve, he commanded that Yusuf's case be reopened and brought before the court once more. Summoning the women who had falsely accused Yusuf, the king confronted them with the scars on their hands, physical proofs of their guilt and deception. The courtroom fell into a stunned silence as the women who had falsely accused Yusuf stepped forward and testified to his innocence. Their words echoed with sincerity and remorse, affirming Yusuf's righteousness and dispelling any doubts about his character. Among the onlookers stood the wife of the Aziz, who had concealed the truth all along. Overcome by guilt and the burden of her wrongful actions, she could no longer bear to witness Yusuf's unjust suffering. With regret, the wife of the Aziz stepped forward, her voice trembling yet resolute. "It was I who sought to seduce him," she confessed, her words ringing clear through the courtroom. "Yusuf is a man of honesty and integrity. He's innocent of any wrongdoing." As her confession reverberated throughout the hall, a collective gasp arose from the assembled courtiers and dignitaries. The truth, long concealed beneath layers of deceit, had finally come to light, bringing closure to Yusuf's harrowing ordeal. After hearing the complete story and witnessing Yusuf's unwavering character and integrity, the king was deeply impressed and moved by the exemplary manner in which Yusuf had conducted himself throughout the years of adversity and injustice. In awe of Yusuf's remarkable qualities, the king was determined to honor and elevate him. "Bring Yusuf to me," the king declared with conviction, his voice resonating with admiration and respect. Yusuf was brought before the king. The courtiers and dignitaries marveled at the sight of Yusuf, whose unwavering faith and steadfast devotion had earned him the king's highest accolades. Upon hearing the confessions and witnessing the unfolding truth, Yusuf reflected on the events that had transpired. With a profound sense of gratitude and clarity, he spoke before the king. "I provided the interpretation of the dream and urged the investigation of the women," Yusuf explained. "I wanted the Aziz, my master, to know beyond any doubt that I was innocent of the accusations brought against me." His words carried a weight of sincerity and purpose, affirming his commitment to truth and integrity. In Yusuf's heart, there was no room for bitterness or resentment, only a profound sense of gratitude for the divine justice that had guided him through adversity. As the courtroom absorbed Yusuf's words, the king nodded in understanding. Acknowledging the depths of Yusuf's character and faith, the king marveled at the strength of Yusuf's conviction and the transformative power of his faith in Allah's divine plan. The king pronounced Yusuf's innocence and restored his honor before the entire kingdom. "Yusuf's character and virtues surpass anything I've seen before. From this day forward, I entrust you with my complete trust and authority." The king, deeply impressed by Yusuf's exceptional character and wisdom, expressed his intention to bestow upon Yusuf a significant position within the kingdom. "I am determined to grant you a position of authority and responsibility in my kingdom," the king declared. Upon hearing the king's offer, Yusuf responded with humility and foresight. "Grant me the position of Minister of Agriculture," Yusuf proposed confidently. "I will oversee the storehouses of the land and ensure their protection and management. I possess the knowledge and capability to prepare for the forthcoming tests and challenges as a service to you and the people of Egypt." Yusuf's request reflected his deep commitment to the welfare and prosperity of the kingdom. He understood the critical importance of effective governance and resource management, especially during times of abundance and scarcity. Impressed by Yusuf's foresight and dedication, the king granted him the desired position of Minister of Agriculture, entrusting him with the vital task of safeguarding the kingdom's resources and ensuring the well-being of its people. Yusuf approached his new responsibilities with firm dedication and foresight. With meticulous planning and strategic vision, he oversaw the management of Egypt's agricultural resources, ensuring the efficient utilization of surplus during times of plenty and the preservation of reserves during times of scarcity. Under Yusuf's stewardship, the kingdom prospered and thrived. His astute governance and commitment to the welfare of the people earned him widespread admiration and respect. The storehouses were filled to capacity during the years of abundance. Yusuf's unwavering faith in Allah's divine plan guided his every decision and action. His integrity and compassion endeared him to the hearts of the people, who looked to him as a symbol of hope and stability in a changing world. As the 7 years of abundance drew to a close and the kingdom of Egypt braced itself for the onset of hardship, neighboring towns and villages faced the looming spectre of famine and scarcity. Among these affected regions was the city of Hebron in Palestine, where a father still mourned the loss of his beloved son, and 11 brothers wrestled with the uncertainties of an unpredictable future. Little did the brothers know that their destinies were about to intersect once more with their younger brother, whom they believed had perished many years ago. Unbeknownst to them, the boy they had cast into a well out of jealousy and envy all those years ago had risen to become a prominent figure in the kingdom of Egypt.